Rituals for the Dying and the Deceased. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. The path of making vows, dedicating merit, and finding stillness, illuminated by the great wisdom minds of realized masters. Through the vast ocean of countless lineage, teachers, and practitioners, forever remains a safe path leading to the blissful Pure Land. Serving ceremonial needs for those on the brink of death or who have passed away is a common requirement in world religions. Generally, such ceremonies serve two purposes. For the bereaved who remain, they aim to assist in carrying out the final farewell ceremonies for their loved ones. For the deceased, these rituals offer protection and aid in the journey after death through prayers and ritual practices. Buddhist funeral services and the liturgical music I describe in this chapter are beneficial for both the deceased and those left behind. However, their principal focus is not necessarily to help the departed attain enlightenment or leave the mundane world. Rather, they are deliberately designed to reduce or eliminate negative concepts and unwholesome mental states, these being the sole causes of suffering, fear, and rebirth in lower realms. Buddhist death rituals, often called ko-sieo ceremonies, also aim to help generate and transfer merit to the deceased through the power of virtuous thoughts and wholesome appreciation. These are direct sources of peace, joy, and rebirth in fortunate realms, such as the human realm or celestial realms, or in bright pure lands. The tradition of death rituals. Tibetan Buddhist funerary rites, ko-sieo, are carried out by lamas and practitioners, varying according to each Buddhist school in different regions of Tibet. The funeral ritual presented in this chapter is based on the Nyingma, ancient tradition as practiced in Golok in eastern Tibet, where I was born and trained. Funeral ceremonies are usually conducted by Lama's elderly monks or spiritually transmitted teachers, akin to bishops or clergy in Western cultural traditions. If the Lama is well trained, the performance of the rites for the deceased will be highly effective. Merely having the title Lama or something similar confers no additional power beyond that of an ordinary individual. Anyone can practice the rituals mentioned in this book, provided they have training in meditation and prayer. In certain places and under some Tibetan traditions, funeral rites are very quiet and simple. The lamas or attending practitioners recite prayers and make offerings of money, food, jewelry, or livestock to the monastery, nunnery, or directly to monastics or the poor. The body may be cremated or offered as food for Volturisa, sky burial, as an offering to the Buddha and the deities, although the Buddha and deities do not actually eat. This practice involves a meditative ceremony, training one's mind to perceive everything as pure, cultivating tolerance, devotion, and letting go. One important religious practice is to set a specific number of ardent prayers. For example, fervent prayers for kings, fervent prayers for virtuous acts, along with substantial offerings of lamps, incense, and fruit. In other Tibetan regions, funeral rites can be more elaborate, with the Lama invited to the deceased home for extended prayer ceremonies lasting an entire week before and up to 7 weeks after the passing, or even longer. The duration and scale of such ceremonies depend on the family's financial capacity. To sponsor the funeral, many families allocate or divide the deceased's possessions. Religious rituals for those about to die. It is crucial to practice the Dharma while we are still alive, because this lays the foundation of our spiritual path and instills confidence. Then, when the time comes for our final departure, we will be prepared to apply these practices to our direct experience. The third Drupchen Rinpoche wrote, "When the time of death arrives, it may be very difficult to concentrate on some newly introduced form of meditation. Thus, you must select one meditation to refine and strengthen your mind with as much as you can. It may be meditating on a Buddha, feeling compassion, the energy of taking refuge, or realizing emptiness. Repeatedly remind yourself, at the moment of my last breath, I will not let myself be carried away by any unwholesome thought. Nurture a natural clarity and a peaceful state of mind. The important thing is to practice meditation many times before your death occurs. Then, when the time of dying comes, you can die with proper understanding. Any virtuous deeds, whether physical or mental, done while you are still alive, and especially during your final days in bed, will be tremendously beneficial for your next life." Various purification, meritorious, and empowerment rituals and dedicatory prayers are crucial to perform before dying, but they are still good even if done after death. Purification. To bring freedom from obstacles or difficulties both in this life and on the path of your future journey after death, it is crucial to purify the effects of your past unwholesome karma. Any flaws in your current life or future life come from these past negative karmic seeds, which must be purified to ensure a more elevated progression. This is similar to cleansing physical toxins from your body to maintain health. Through purification, you can nullify negative deeds and their consequences. Various forms of virtuous action or spiritual practice can lead to purification meditation on the Buddha and prayers for the benefit of all beings, spoken aloud or practiced from deep within the heart, can bring genuine purification of unwholesome karma. Some aspects of funeral ceremonies also contribute to achieving this purification. Among the special Buddhist practices specifically designed for purification are the confession before the 35 Buddhas and the prayers visualization of Buddha Vajrasattva. The latter involves the union of 4 powers. 1. The power of dependence. Placing your trust in Vajrasattva above you in the sky, visualizing him as the naturally awakened one, endowed with all perfect qualities, thus regarding him as the source of your confession. 2. The power of regret, genuinely feeling remorse for the negative deeds you have committed. 3. The power of restraint, strengthening your ethical discipline, determining not to repeat those misdeeds in the future. 4. The power of the actual antidote, through prayer and recitation of the mantra, Om Vajrasattva Va, whom addressing Vajrasattva, to purify and cleanse all impurities of body, speech, and mind so completely that no trace remains. You can also confess on behalf of the deceased or other beings, train your mind in confession, visualize sacred images, and summon a deep sense of trust to ensure the best result in purifying your negative karma. Nonetheless, many special practices can bring about effective purification. Likewise, any genuinely virtuous act, especially one you mentally dedicate to purification, can have the same effect. For example, rescuing or protecting other beings in danger, giving charity to those in need or supporting religious causes with generosity, constructing public shelters or religious monuments for the benefit of others, can help you or others in purifying negative karma and strengthening moral resolve. Praying, meditating, or conducting special rituals on behalf of others can also help purify their wrongdoing and establish virtue for them if you dedicate the merits to that purpose. But how effective is our effort? If the negativity of a person is too grave, if they are unreceptive or lack faith even at a subtle level toward you, if there is no shared karmic connection as a basis for the aid, or if our prayers are weak or impure, then our efforts will have little effect. However, if their negative deeds are purifiable, if they do place their trust in us or at least feel a positive inclination toward what we do, if there is a karmic link between us and them, and if our practice is powerful enough, we can certainly help purify another's negative karma. If a fully qualified teacher performs a special prayer, meditation, or ritual, even a severe karmic load can be purified, and that person can be liberated thanks to the teacher's power and the purifying power of meditation. Thus, there is no single simple answer. It all depends on numerous conditions and causes, as is the case in every aspect of life. Even partial purification can greatly improve the condition of a deceased being. Moreover, if someone's passing inspires us to practice confession, to take profound refuge in the Buddha, we create abundant merit. In turn, the departed who motivated our wholesome thoughts likewise receives the benefit. Whenever we create merit, that merit increases our positive qualities and diminishes or purifies our negative traits. Creating merit. To enjoy peace and happiness in both life and rebirth, you must accumulate merit, wholesome karma, by doing virtuous deeds. Any happiness or peace you experience in life now directly results from good deeds performed in the past. To further improve your future lives, continue performing wholesome deeds through prayer, meditation, charitable service to the needy, offerings to religious activities, rescuing and safeguarding living creatures, for instance, purchasing and releasing livestock, repairing and building roads, constructing or renovating monasteries and stupas, and sponsoring or performing prayer ceremonies and meditations with a respectful, loving attitude. Empowerment. Initiation. An empowerment or special transmission can be highly effective for purifying wrongdoing, boosting merit, reviving your past spiritual experiences and accomplishments, and clarifying the path of liberation or entry to a pure land. It can also introduce you to the Buddhas, their pure lands, and bestow the blessings of the Buddha's wisdom and awakening. For example, a liberation from the 6 realms empowerment can be performed for a person close to dying. These empowerments purify negative karma that might otherwise propel them into the lower realms, help accumulate the merit for rebirth in a happier realm, and bring the blessings of the Buddhas to awaken or attain rebirth in a pure land. Of course, it is crucial that whoever guides or performs these funeral rituals has adequate meditative training, especially for these specialized ceremonies, and that there is a positive karmic connection between the officiant and the deceased. If elaborate empowerments and rituals are unavailable, even simple prayers or meditation, performed with compassion for all sentient beings and for the deceased, or with devotion to the Buddhas, will be immensely beneficial, especially if undertaken by someone with genuine meditative practice. At the very least, one could chant or recite the names of the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, repeat mantras, or conduct simple rituals out of pure loving kindness. There exist many Tibetan texts of prayers and liturgies. One concise ritual of rebirth in the Pure Land appears in Appendix A. Additionally, the practice of phawa, the transference of consciousness, if performed by a qualified teacher, is extremely beneficial for both the individual in the process of dying and after death. Appendix B provides a brief phawa text with explanation. Dedication and heartfelt aspiration. After performing virtuous actions such as prayers, it is essential to dedicate the merit and make heartfelt aspirations. The power of dedication grows in proportion to the greatness of the scope, potency, and purity of one's motivation. Hence, we do not limit our dedication only to one person, but expand it to all sentient beings, so that they may attain happiness and enlightenment. Consequently, the merit becomes vastly multiplied and then returns to benefit the deceased. One then expresses a heartfelt aspiration, directing these merits toward a specific aim and clarifying that aim. Use the act of dedicating merit as a means to generate fervent wishes that all sentient beings be happy and reborn in a pure land. Especially dedicate merits to beings in the bardo, intermediate state. Each time reaffirm the dedication of any merit you and the deceased have gathered, great or small, so that the deceased and all sentient beings may be reborn in a pure land. In doing so, you can ensure that this merit becomes the cause for that attainment. You may also recite and meditate on dedicatory prayers, such as passages from the Bhattacharya Pranadhanaraja Sutra, often rendered as the King of Aspiration, Prayers of Excellent Conduct. This Mahayana Sutra, drawn from the Buddhavatamsaka, Avatamsaka, or Flower Ornament Sutra, teaches how to dedicate merit in the manner of Samantabhadra. The deceased may also receive blessings through symbolic tasting of nectar or consecrated objects placed on the corpse. Practitioners in the Nyingma tradition often place certain specially blessed seals, mantras, or letters in Sanskrit or Tibetan script called liberation upon contact at the heart or other parts of the body. Religious services during the dying process. At the time of passing, one can engage in numerous religious services, including prayers and meditation, creating a calm, loving, and blessed atmosphere of great support. Below are some ways lamas often provide spiritual care in Tibetan tradition. Guidance for the ordinary individual. The best time to receive such guidance is while one is still living, so they can listen and understand. The guide should offer advice that opens the mind and is digestible. If a dying person refuses to acknowledge their impending death, avoid forcing spiritual notions and instead focus on conventional expressions of comfort or therapy, anything that reduces fear and provides some sense of peace. If the person is ready to receive teachings on their own death, encourage them to recall their meditative or devotional habits for support. Third, Dodrupchen Rinpoche summarizes the key points for a dying person to remember. Contemplate repeatedly on these points. Reflect on death now upon you, which comes to everyone. Give up all worldly attachments, be it loved ones, possessions, or power. In front of the awakened ones, confess your misdeeds and purify all wrongdoing committed knowingly or unknowingly in this life and past lives. Make a firm promise to yourself and to the awakened ones never again to commit those mistakes. Having done so sincerely, unburden yourself. Recall all the virtuous actions you have done in the past. Rejoice in them wholeheartedly without pride or arrogance. Dedicate the merit and offer prayers, saying, "In my ongoing lifetimes, may I actualize the essence of the path to awakening. May I be guided by noble spiritual teachers, and may I develop unwavering faith, diligence, understanding, and mindfulness. May I never be harmed by malevolent companions or afflictive actions." It is extremely important to maintain a virtuous mindset at the moment of death. Drupchen Rinpoche observes that. Many sutras recount how certain disciples came to meet the Buddha. In numerous instances, the primary cause, the Buddha explained, was that at the time of death, these individuals had some wholesome aspiration. Thus, whatever you wish to actualize at your final breath has tremendous power to shape your rebirth. As noted earlier, the practice of phawa, transference of consciousness, is pivotal and can be done either shortly before or after death. See P265 in the English text. The ideal scenario for someone who is dying is to recall their teacher, in whom they have faith, the deities or spiritual experiences they are familiar with, and, filled with loving kindness, arouse the aspiration that all sentient beings reach Buddhahood, guidance and service when a meditator dies. If the deceased is an advanced meditator, spiritual friends or a capable teacher should stand by, ready to offer guidance. This includes helping the dying person recall their guru, their meditation practices, and any beneficial spiritual connections. If no properly qualified attendants are available, it is often best to allow a meditator to pass away in silence, with others offering prayers quietly some distance away so as not to disturb. Maintaining a calm environment around the dying meditator for hours or even days, as circumstances allow, is essential. Some great masters may remain in deep meditation for many hours or days after their breath has ceased. The heartbeat and breathing stop, yet a subtle warmth remains at the heart area, signaling that the master has not fully left the body and is abiding in meditative absorption. In such cases, preserving the physical body peacefully and keeping a tranquil atmosphere for as long as needed is recommended. However, if it becomes necessary to move the body or perform certain rites, a few practitioners may gently break this meditative state with a ritual or short ceremony. If no one is available to perform any ritual, even the simple sound of a bell or chanting can bring the master out of that deep state. Traditionally, the deceased disciples may engage in merging in the guru's meditation, reciting the 4 empowerments, similar to the Vajrasattva practice, or performing a guru yoga liturgy. They might perform various purification or merit-making offerings to the deities on behalf of the master. Even though an accomplished master may not require such purification or merit, such practices benefit those who share karmic connections with the master. It is most beneficial for the disciples to meditate on oneness with the teacher's awakened mind. Remember that, unlike an ordinary person who needs a funeral ceremony, realized masters do not necessarily require or even wish for such rites. For that reason, many great teachers sometimes say they wish to die like a dog, meaning unnoticed and without a fuss, so they can freely transition from this life on their own terms. Religious service after death. The 13 stages funeral rite is the one I learned and practiced growing up in Eastern Tibet. This is a comprehensive ritual performed for someone who has died or who is dying, typically by meditative practitioners or devout lay people. In some texts, this funeral is referred to as the Ngur Turng ceremony, because sometimes an effigy or doll is used instead of the actual body. Others call it the Liberation from the Six Realms ceremony, as the ritual aims to cleanse karmic seeds that might lead to rebirth in the 6 realms. Still others simply call it the ceremony for the deceased. Different lineages may focus the service around a specific deity or Buddha, or on a particular mandala or pure land such as Amitabha, Avalokiteshvara, Vajrasattva, the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, the purified form of Vairocana known as Sarvavid Vairocana or Yamantaka Vajrabhairava. However, the ceremony will be more powerful if it centers on a Buddha or deity connected to the officiant or the deceased. Summary of the 13 steps in the funeral ceremony. 1. Preparatory phase. The officiating lamas or helpers begin with meditation, prayers of refuge, and the generation of bodhicitta, awakened mind, on behalf of the deceased. 2. Deity visualization. They visualize themselves as a deity Avalokiteshvara, for instance, within a pure land filled with innumerable awakened beings. They recite the mantra of that Buddha or deity, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum, experiencing the presence and blessings of the deities, letting rays of their enlightened light permeate the entire cosmos, thus transforming and awakening all being. 3. Offerings. On a shrine or altar, they set bowls of consecrated water, visualized as nectar, to represent gifts of goodness flowers, incense, food, music, either physically or as imaginative offerings, and chant praises to the deity with profound reverence. Reciting mantras, they meditate on the deities merging their blessings into the bowls of nectar until these vessels become powerful repositories of enlightened energy. 4. Receiving the mandala of deities in the vessel. Through visualization and prayer, they invite the mandala deities to enter the consecrated vessel. In other words, the bowl of nectar is seen as identical to the Tathagata's body, speech, and mind filled with the presence and qualities of the awakened ones. 5. Summoning the deceased consciousness. With the authority of truth statements and pure intention, they invite the consciousness of the deceased, if the person is still dying or has just died, to enter an effigy, or the physical body if present, and settle there. Then they instruct the deceased, emphasizing the crucial points, turning the mind to the deities, the spiritual path, the Buddhas, the Pure Land, and the Teacher Land to not cling to worldly attachments. 6. Ritual of liberation from the 6 realms. This is a vital liturgy focusing on freeing the deceased from the cycle of rebirth across the 6 realms by purifying the karmic seeds that cause rebirth in each realm, one by one. They then bestow empowerment or blessing on the deceased's body, speech, and mind as a Buddha's. 7. Food and drink offerings. Offerings of prepared food and liquid refreshment are then made. According to some scriptures, Bardo beings cannot consume solid food, but may enjoy cooked or fragrant substances. The Ayushpati Yathakara Paripricha Sutra mentions there is no direct benefit in physically feeding the deceased who no longer possess a gross physical body. Further, if one offers a plate of food out of sorrow or negative emotion, it yields little merit. However, consecrating the food or drink with prayer, turning it into something pure and beneficial, and offering it out of love can benefit the deceased. In a smoke offering ceremony, a smokeless fire is prepared, fueled by wood or oil, and one burns both cooked and uncooked offerings along with a small piece of new clothing as symbolic attire for the deceased. Traditionally in Tibet, the main offerings are flour and butter mixture and a small representation of new clothes. In Western settings, one could bake bread and burn a piece of fresh clothing instead. If one cannot manage a fire offering, place vegetarian food and drink on an altar during the ritual, and afterward dispose of them in a clean, respectful way. Even if you cannot perform every step precisely, if you do at least visualize the offerings, recite prayers with devotion, and mentally offer them to the deceased, they become greatly beneficial. If one dedicates these offerings for all suffering beings, especially the deceased, it becomes a vast store of merit. 8. Phawa, transference of consciousness. At this stage, they perform phawa, guiding the consciousness or spirit of the deceased to unite with the Buddha's awakened mind, enabling rebirth in a Pure Land. 9. Disposing of the body. Next comes the physical funeral. In Tibet, the body is usually cremated or offered as food for vultures, sky, burial. The officiants practice meditation and recite mantras, visualizing the body as nectar and the fire, or the vultures, as the wisdom fire or deity, thereby purifying all negative karma and producing merit and wisdom for the deceased. Burning the body, or an effigy, symbolizes the destruction of self-grasping and the afflictive emotions, the negative karmic seeds consumed in the flames of the 5 wisdoms, the ultimate nature of mind. 10. Collecting the bones. Afterward, the ashes or fragments of bone are gathered up for further memorial practices, possibly repeated weekly or over a set period. Again, a liberation from the 6 realms ceremony can be performed at this time. 11. forming stupa-like relics. In some traditions, the purified bone ash is mixed with soil and shaped into small stupas, sa, ta, sa, signifying the physical transformation of the deceased into the Buddha's qualities. The stupa is the universal symbol of awakened mind. The ritual to consecrate these TSAs can be conducted over a week or so, dedicating them as embodiments of the Buddha's enlightened form. 12. Final disposal. The TSAs are placed inside a larger stupa or offered into a river or the sea to merge back into nature so that nothing substantial remains. This ensures no lingering attachment that might hinder the deceased from letting go. Nonetheless, for great masters, lineages often preserve some relics or build a commemorative shrine to serve as a focus of veneration and a source of blessings. 13. Conclusion and dedication. Finally, participants dedicate all the virtue generated through offerings, ritual, and practice for the benefit of the deceased and all sentient beings, praying for a blissful journey and a fortunate rebirth, for instance in the pure land of Amitabha. They recite powerful aspiration prayers so that all seeds of virtue may ripen accordingly. Other ceremonies. For simple short prayer sessions, meditations, and services, see Appendix B. When performing a funeral for an accomplished teacher or someone especially venerated, lamas or disciples may do extended ceremonies of devotion for many days or weeks, which include guru, yoga, deity visualizations, food offerings, ritual music, and repeated acts of purification, merit accumulation, and fervent dedication. During these extended rites, relatives and friends typically help generate additional merit on behalf of the deceased by reciting prayers and meditating, making offerings and charitable or religious donations, supporting the living or building memorial monuments such as stupas, prayer flags, or prayer wheels, sponsoring educational centers or retreat facilities, and promoting social harmony. Afterward, they dedicate all that merit to the happiness and enlightenment of the deceased, ensuring their passage through the bardo and into a joyful rebirth or the ultimate bliss of a pure land. In Tibetan Buddhist tradition, it is common to distribute material wealth to monasteries, charities, or the needy, specifically intending that the merit be dedicated to the departed. Even if you have minimal means, you can imagine offering infinite resources with a heart of joy and generosity. Doing so still creates significant merit. Buddhists believe that even a small offering combined with such vast aspirations becomes immeasurable in benefit, like a drop of rain entering the ocean, never drying up until the ocean itself disappears. Should you have a strong karmic link with the deceased, even offering something as simple as a cup of tea with sincere devotion can produce inexhaustible benefit, thanks to the holiness of the recipients or the depth of one's intention.